for San Pasquale Academy at the office the other day. Whoops, sorry about that, group. Okay, sorry about that. No. Anyway, they dropped it off, and I had a note put on it that it was from I don't know if you can read that.
No.
It came from Richard Einstein, and I'm wondering if we know a Richard Einstein in our club.
That, as many fake names as I use, I promise that was not me.
Any guesses? We finally figured it out, but we're going Richard Einstein. Who's that?
Right. It was not me. I promise you on that.
Was it Rich Greenstein?
There you go. We have a winner.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Nice.
Hey, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Does anybody in the club responsible for the holiday cards that go to each member, or we don't have any of that sentiment?
Holiday cards.
Like a holiday card, yeah. Do we send like to all of our members, or we kind of just like?
We don't. I'm sure that Sharita would love somebody to volunteer to help her make that idea come true.
Well, maybe next year I'll do it, but this year I have enough to do. Just asking. I mean, you know, like that would be nice to, because not all our members are on Zoom. I assume there's some people, I don't want to sound negative, but IT challenged for some reasons, you know. So that might be nice for them to get a card from us or something from the club. Just saying.
I'm planning to do that, but through email. You know, the way I send the center view.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if we have to buy a card and sign it to send it to everybody, most of the addresses that we've got before when we were driving and dropping off our roster, it's like so many people are not even in the address that was listed on the booklet.
I see.
Yeah, so I would like to do it online. So I have already drafted a Christmas card for everyone on those days that we don't have a meeting for Christmas and New Year.
That's cool. Okay, that was my question. Thank you, Sharita.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good
morning, Andrew.
Sharita. Good morning, Amy. How are you?
Doing great.
Yeah, you sound wonderful. There you are. You look wonderful too. There we are. And I see Fred and Marilyn have joined us. Kurt and Dan and Parker and Dara and Robin Douglas is here. Woo!
Awesome. Why did it take so long to get
only the half of the head of Mike? You can see it.
Robin, it took so long because I saw it was you.
Well, I'm going to have to come over and toilet paper your house.
Oh, good, because we're almost out. Come on.
You notice you don't see any more TPing, do you?
Nope, that stuff is more expensive than gold at this point.
That's right, Andrew. You could recycle it.
Hey, Mike.
How do you know I don't?
Ron.
That's why I have kids. There you go, kids. It's hand-me-down time. Oh, Kelly Cloud is connecting to audio. Vate is here. Royce Moore has joined us. Irv, Jill Campbell, another Bill. I think that might be, not sure what that Bill is.
Did anybody else lose their power over the last couple of weeks?
Everyone but me, apparently.
Except for essential activities. Ah, okay.
I was reading, but a lot of the downtown restaurants lost power on Saturday. Who else did I see had lost power?
We were out last night starting at 6 p.m. until about 9:45 this morning. And on Wednesday, we got lost power on about, I can't remember what time, but we were off for about 38 hours there on that night. So yeah, it's been pretty tough. I'm sure Cimarron is the same as us. Is that right, Marilyn?
Yep, pretty much.
Okay.
Dan, are you sure you paid your
Dan,
bill?
how's your foot doing, Dan?
Well,
Good job, Fred.
it's getting better. I've got surgery scheduled, so I'll make it.
All right.
You'll survive.
Yep, I'll survive.
We didn't lose any power. We live over by Manual Faith. It's been on this whole time, luckily.
Well, good for you.
No way they'll shut down at Manual Faith.
I now know why farmers used to go to bed at dark, because there's nothing to do.
Right.
You go to bed with the chickens, you get up with the chickens, right?
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yep.
All right. So it is actually just afternoon. So I don't see my pledge. Jay, where is your lovely wife? Fiddles. All right. Here she comes. Good. All right. So let us go ahead and start this meeting for December 8th, 2020. Welcome to our Zoom meeting. Ring the bell. Come on, ring the bell. Come on.
More call.
Whoop. Come on. Where is my bell? There's the bell. All righty.
Very good.
Our invocation will be Mr. Joe. Welcome, Joe. Welcome back. Let me mute. Go ahead, Joe.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me back. Those that are so inclined, please bow your heads as we have this invocation. Thank you. Loving Lord, thank you so much for the holiday times and the wonder and excitement that they engender in our hearts. And I just want to thank you for all the goodness and grace you generously pour out on us and all people. Especially, I thank you for the many blessings we gain from these important times of fun and family reunion. Although this year it is different. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, many will be alone, will not be able to experience the family reunions and that fun. I want to remember those particularly that will be alone or that are facing illness or going through tough times, stressful and difficult. I pray that you will draw them very close to you, each one of them. Let them be in to experience your peace in their heart and give them your grace. We thank you in your name. Amen.
Thank you very much. That was very nice. Let's see. Now, Miss Jackie, would you lead our pledge, please?
Ready, begin. I pledge
Let's listen to the flag.
Of the United States of America,
To
to
the
the
republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
All right. And Jackie, you have a special introduction to our upcoming patriotic song that you'd like to share.
Yes. Every morning at 7 a.m., I call my 99-year young dad. And yesterday, instead of saying hello, I was greeted with a couple verses of the song you're about to hear. It's a song I had never heard before or ever even heard of. Take it away, Sammy K.
Right. Thank you. So was your father, did he serve?
Of course.
Okay. Was he in the Pacific?
No.
No. Okay.
He was towing targets.
Oh, very nice. All right, here we go. Here's our patriotic song as introduced by Miss Jackie Skay.
History in every century records an act that lives forevermore. We'll recall as into line we fall the thing that happened on Hawaii shore. Let's remember Pearl Harbor, as we go to meet the foe. Let's remember Pearl Harbor as we did the Alamo. We will always remember how they died for liberty. Let's remember Pearl Harbor and go on to victory. Let's remember Pearl Harbor as we go to meet the foe. Let's remember Pearl Harbor as we did the Alamo. We will always remember how they died for liberty. Let's remember Pearl Harbor and go on to victory.
Very
Andrew,
nice.
Andrew, did you want me to say the rest now? I may be misunderstood. Or did you
yeah,
want me
go
to say
for
it
it.
before the song?
Go for it.
Go for it. Okay. So, you know, yesterday was Pearl Harbor Day, the day that shall live in infamy. But it didn't just happen in a vacuum. And here's what my dad told me. He said he was just out of high school. He'd left the farm. He was working as a busboy at a fancy hotel in Davenport, Iowa. And the news came on over the radio. And he said we all just stopped what we were doing and stood there looking at the radio. And we didn't really understand. We were dumbfounded. We didn't know where the hell Pearl Harbor was. That's my dad. He said we thought it had something to do with Mackenzie's expansionism. That was something they'd learned about in school in the social studies. There were 3 guys there working that day that were told immediately to report to duty because they were in the service. So they went that day and they got shipped out to fight. Now, again, I said this didn't happen in a vacuum. They didn't go to Pearl Harbor. They were shipped out to fight against Rommel in North Africa. Okay, because this was going on all over the world. Remember, this was World War II. There were 7 guys from my graduating class, my dad said. 1 guy got a farm deferment. 1 guy got a medical deferment because he'd always been crippled. And the rest of us were in the service within 6 months. And he said, we all came back alive. So that was the good news. I said, what is McKinsey's expansionism? McKinley's expansionism. He said, well, I wish I'd paid a little more study in social, much more interest in social studies. But he said, there were 2 major factors, just like there are now. He said, there were those who thought expanding into new frontiers was integral to national greatness. And he said there were those known as the anti-imperialists who thought overseas expansion would be too costly, would bring non-white people to America, and would deviate from the traditional isolationist stance of American foreign policy. And so then I did a little research to figure out if he was right, and he was. And so, a lot of the sentiment really stemmed from economic self-interest. This is what I learned on the internet later. That even, for instance, sugar farmers or sugar producers in the lower South were concerned. They were worried. They didn't want us to absorb Puerto Rico. They didn't want us to absorb Cuba or the Philippines because that was an economic threat to them and their sugar enterprises. There were issues with China, as Britain, Germany, France, and Russia, and oh, surprise, Japan, scrambled to exert their influence in China. So why did Japan attack Pearl Harbor? Well, there's been books and books written on that. But on that day, well, part of it was timing, you know, it was an element of surprise. Part of it was because they were very concerned about the Pacific Fleet interfering with Japan's expansion into China and Japan's conquest of the Dutch East Indies, Malaysia, and Southeast Asia. So the element of surprise. And what did it mean to an ordinary guy like my dad, fresh off the farm? It made him wish he'd paid more attention in social studies. And what do they say about those who don't understand history?
Right.
Right. So that's our story. We're sticking to it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for making it relevant, though. That was good.
Yeah.
I have to admit, when I actually found this song, because I'd found this before you emailed me about it.
Yeah.
I'm just a little surprised at what a chipper song it is.
Right? I know. My daddy, you know, I answered the phone and instead of saying hello, he's like, let's remember Pearl Harbor. And I'm like, what?
Right.
He says, you never heard that song? I said, no. Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Jackie.
My pleasure.
So welcome today to our Zoom meeting. We do have a guest, our speaker, Ms. Robin Douglas. Hi, Robin. How are you?
I'm great. How's everybody doing?
Oh, you know, doing pretty well. And we have a visiting Rotarian I see, Mr. Frank Tecca. Hi, Frank. Welcome.
Well, not actually visiting yet. I've been visiting the Clark County Rotary Club on Thursdays, but I think I'm still with you guys.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. There we go. Well, then we won't call you a visiting Rotarian.
Okay.
All right, Miss Robin, then this song is, whoops, whoa, what happened there? This song is for you, and I'm sure you've become familiar with the song, but I don't know that you've heard this version, so.
Okay.
Howdy, we're glad to have you here. Welcome, we sing a loud and clear. Relax, enjoy the program, and won't you come back to see us again?
Excellent. All right, our upcoming calendar. Next week is our holiday meeting / demotion. There is a Haven House scheduled for next week. Kelly, I do want to talk to you a little bit about that. December 19th is Salvation Army Bell Ringing Day at Major Market. The 22nd, we're going to be dark. The 29th, we're going to be dark. The 6th is another Haven House. And the 5th, we will actually, I don't have this up on the calendar again. I keep forgetting it. Our own Dollar Bill Smith will be chatting with us on the 5th of January. The 12th, Bob Walker on Escondido Winery and Airbnb. The 19th, Fresh Creations. The 26th, Household Guardians will talk to us about basically creating a safe space for seniors in their house. And then our own Paulette will be talking to us on February 2nd about desert wildlife photography. Excuse me, do we have any member moments? All right, hearing none. Let's move on to In the Wild. Look at this, Myrna Lynn South North. Such a beautiful woman. She apparently is very grateful for ornate doors. That's the only thing I can get out of this picture. There's nothing else in this picture that I see that's worth being grateful for. Kidding. I'm kidding.
If you only knew.
Congratulations. That is a beautiful picture, Vaughn.
You're very kind.
Rachel, she has an advent calendar of 24 days of Cheesemas. Now, I have got to hope that the mankiest cheeses are early, because by the 24th day sitting out, I can only imagine what blue cheese would actually smell like, or camembert, right?
Just full disclaimer, it's in the fridge.
Oh.
It does get kept in the fridge, but yesterday was Red Leicester, and I'm from Leicester, and it was not a good day, so it wasn't my favorite.
I have to be honest, I don't know all of the versions of that blue cheese, Stilton, camembert. That's never been one of my favorites. All right.
Well,
Rosa.
Andy,
Yes,
Andy,
yes.
are you aware that they now have a 24 days of wine available?
I was not, because no one put it up on there in the wild.
I didn't get it. I just saw it.
That would be fun. Actually, Alex and Justin should do that and have an opera singer go along with it, right? Rosa Ruiz went out to the Center for the Arts Northern Lights. How was that, Rosa? It looks beautiful. All right. Rosa's feeling shy. Okay.
Rosa shy.
Oh, right? There's got to be something strange going on there. She must not hear us. Let's go ahead and move on then.
You were muted, Rosa.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot that I was muted, but I was at the park. I was at the park.
He was talking and talking.
At 9:30 at night. It was empty. So we were able, my friend Shelly and I were able to take all the pictures. It was beautiful. So if you guys have a chance, stop by. It's open from 5 to 9:30, I think. And they have music with the lights, just really nice. That's at the California Center for the Arts in the backside with Great Day Park.
Beautiful. All right. And then we have Arlene and Bob here wishing us a very happy Christmas, or merry, blessed Christmas. Let me get that correct. A blessed Christmas. And honestly, what better gift could we have? All right. I didn't want to leave a snark on that one. So just a reminder, and Keith, if you want to talk, you can. You don't have to. Just a reminder that Keith is collecting at Conrad for gift cards and or donations for the San Pasquale Academy Giving Tree. You can send a check to the P.O. Box for Rotary, or you can drop it off at Conrad Company yourself in person. I would strongly encourage that. Keith, do you want to say anything? You want me to just move on?
Move on. You said everything. Thank you, President Andrew.
Okay. And there is the wish list, because these are kids that really, again, not only is there a COVID lockdown, but they don't have any other family anyhow. So they really appreciate this.
And many thanks to those who have already contributed. There have been quite a few already. So thank you for your enthusiasm for it.
Excellent. And a reminder about the bell ringing. Definitely want you to coordinate with Ron on that. We did have some discussion about shutdowns, and of course, many of us just got a notice on our phone about stay-at-home orders. But just stay in touch with Ron on that, and we're gonna have something to go out by email about activities in this COVID time. So we'll leave that be.
Right, and Andy, I'll commit to reaching out to Salvation Army and Major Market and get their latest take on things and get that to you before you do your message.
Okay, excellent. All right, so here's our last bit of business for the day, I believe. And this is our slate of officers and board. And I was informed today that we are not voting on the executive secretary today. But I also forgot last week to put Alex on the slate, but she is there. So this is our proposed 21-22 slate of officers and board of directors for the Escondido Rotary Club. Is there any motion to accept this?
So moved.
All right. I heard several. Can that count as a second?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Simple.
Is there any discussion about this slate of directors and board members?
Just the level of compensation.
Okay. Does that mean you want out?
No, I want a 10% raise.
Oh, okay. Good. We can
I'd
do
say
that.
25%. Give them 25% raise.
All right. Yeah, I'm feeling.
I second that.
50%.
How much is 100%?
Okay.
100% of zero is zero anyway.
Right. That's what my wife tells me.
I missed that class.
So All in favor of this slate of officers and board of directors for 21-22 signify somehow, whether by shouting or clicking a yes button or standing up and spinning counterclockwise. Charita will accept chocolate, by the way.
I'll just say aye.
All right.
She's
All
greedy.
in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All right. Any opposed?
Aye.
Who's opposed?
Just to be in record, I oppose.
Oh, okay. So Ossie's going to be vice president next year.
Yeah, every party needs a pooper. That's why we invited Ossie.
Right. All right, then that is our board of directors. There we go. Doug gave us a thumbs up. Very nice, Doug Moyer. Board of directors for 21-22. Roy Henderson will be president-elect, and Von North will be president, and Colleen McKinnon will be the vice president. Everything else pretty much stays the same, right?
Yep.
All righty. So let's move on to our program for our lovely guest, our lovely program, Miss, geez, I just lost the mind, Robin Douglas. We actually, I was informed that it was my turn to actually try a fun song this week. So I really want you to be gentle. I don't have the greatest singing voice, and I'm not a very good composer. So I took a shot at this. I hope you enjoy it.
F is for friends who do stuff together. U is for you and me. N is for anywhere and anytime at all.
Down here in the deep blue sea. F is for fire that burns down the whole town. U's for uranium bombs. N is for no survivors when you're...
Plankton. Those things aren't what fun is all about. Now, do it like this. F is for friends who do stuff.
Never. That's completely idiotic.
Here, let me help you. F is for friends who do stuff together. U is for you and me. Try it.
N is for anywhere and anytime at all.
Down here in the deep blue sea.
Wait, I don't understand this. I feel all tingly inside. Should we stop?
No, that's how you're supposed to feel.
Well, I like it. Let's do it again.
Okay.
F is for frolic through all the flowers. U is for ukulele. N is for nose picking, sharing gum and sand licking here with my best buddy.
All right, Miss Douglas. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much.
You have your own slide deck, correct?
Well, let's see. I just need to get that on there. Can you share that?
I never did get it.
Okay, are you seeing it now?
It's not there yet. There's a button at the bottom of your Zoom screen that says share screen.
Right.
And then you should see your slides pop up as an option. And then you click on them. Let me double check something here.
Let's get that down. Okay, here's my share screen. And
there it is.
do you see it now?
Yes, we do.
Oh, good. Let's see. Let's start the slideshow. I think it might have just been too big to upload to your.
Yeah, that happens.
But tell me, everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Usually I have my assistant with me. My daughter's a Zoom expert since she's on Zoom for 16 hours a day, but she was otherwise engaged this afternoon. So nothing says happy holidays like censorship, right? Maybe I should have done a little more seasonal presentation, but it is kind of fascinating. You know, the history of censorship goes way back to the beginning of time and art and everything else. Freedom of speech, the written word, visual arts have always been subject to debate. Everybody has a different opinion, right? And the people in power have always set the rules that supposedly make for the betterment of moral and political society. In fact, in Rome, the office of censure, and that's where that word came from, was established in 443 BC. So it goes back a long way. And you all know the story about Socrates in Greece. He was sentenced to death in 339 BC for speaking against the powers that be. So even the spoken word was censored. In 300 AD, the Chinese wrote their first laws of censorship. But before I go on, tell me how much time I have.
Sorry, you have about 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay, well, we're going to speed right through this then. So even Queen Victoria had her opinions on censorship. And when she saw David in Florence, she wanted a replica. And of course, when it came back to London, she had her replica covered up by a fig leaf, as you can see. So she was wanted to be very discreet. So here's another one, a little bit more current, obviously, is the goddess of democracy that was destroyed in Tiananmen Square. We all remember that revolt in 1989. She lasted for 5 days, and then the Chinese, of course, took her down. The Chinese have a very long history of censorship, and we'll go into that a little bit later. So here are the top nations for censorship today. So even we have a place in the top 50 as far as censorship by government. So as you remember way in the past, whenever a pharaoh left power, a dynasty changed, the next pharaoh or whatever would go in and they would chip away the faces of the past ones, or maybe the Christians did it too. But whenever you go to Egypt, you'll notice that a lot of pharaohs' faces are chipped away. In other words, they're demonstrating their dislike of the past administration. Here's some more excellent examples of that. Early Christian censorship. Here is the goddess, let's see, Athena, and then we have Germanicus. The Christians carved little crosses in their foreheads and destroyed their noses so that people would not go back and worship those false idols. So they were just telling you not to do that. It's very interesting. So we flash forward to the Renaissance, and everybody knows this story. So when Michelangelo did the Sistine Chapel, and here's an example of a segment of the Last Judgment, he painted near 400 naked figures or near naked figures in 700 square yards of ceiling and wall. And of course, Michelangelo was influenced by the Greeks. This was the resurgence of the classics, and those sculptures, perfect mind, perfect body that the Greeks wanted, were naked. So Michelangelo copied those in his paintings, and some people were quite upset about that. So one of the critics was Cesena, who was of the Pope's Council on Appropriate Behavior, criticized Michelangelo, and they accused him of being a homosexual, and all these naked bodies were going to be so immoral and influence people not to. Let's see if I yeah, here we go. So down in the lower right-hand corner, this is Cesena. Remember the Pope's Council on Appropriate Behavior. And so Michelangelo was so upset with this man that he put him in the Last Judgment in the hell section, and he's given him donkey ears, which is a sign of stupidity. And he also has him intertwined by a snake with the snake head doing him justice. Anyway, so if you criticize an artist, don't think he won't be memorialized in his painting. And so when Cesena went to the Pope, he said, "Pope, look what Michelangelo did. He put my likeness in this." And the Pope replied, "My jurisdiction does not extend to hell. In other words, let's keep it there." He must not have liked him very much anyway. But after Michelangelo's death, the Pope did send another artist up there to paint over some of those suspicious places. Let's see, yeah, you can see that. And that artist was called da Volterra, and he felt really bad about covering up the master's parts of that anatomy. And so from then on, he was known as the pants painter. Well, back in the 20th, later mid-century, they were going to refurbish the Sistine Chapel and the Last Judgment. And they knew from Michelangelo's students that genitalia was rampant there, right? So they went up there and they started taking away the fig leaves and the old pants. And they saw, well, the Pope said, keep some of the pants on, because when they started to refurbish it, they noticed that de Volterra had also taken off some of the genitalia. Oh, it's just crazy. It's so complex. And so the Pope said, okay, leave some genitalia and leave the pants that haven't destroyed the genitalia under it, kind of as historical markers. So censorship on and off again. It's really quite interesting. So anyway, here we go. Here are some of the pants. You can see they're kind of hanging off what used to be naked butts. Here's some of the genitalia that still remains, that wasn't destroyed. And of course, the most famous creation of Adam from the top. So I could talk about this particular subject for a long, long time. So much has been written about it, but these are some of the images that were offending. And you can see that before and after the fall. I mean, these are quite striking things. In fact, these are all fresco. Fresco means fresh, so it was painted with lime, plaster, and pigment mix. So it was quite a tremendous feat, especially for a sculptor, which Michelangelo was. So you can see all of his bodies look very three-dimensional. Anyway, moving on to Hieronymus Bosch, about the same time period, who lived in the Netherlands. He was independently wealthy. He married a wealthy woman, so he didn't have to take commissions. He painted things that he wanted to. Remember, vast exploration was happening at this time in the world. And so the world was changing and all these exotic things were happening. And so artists had like free license to do these dreamlike, sometimes religious, sometimes secular imagery. And so here we have the Garden of Earthly Lights folded up. The triptych is folded up. This is the outside. This is a representation of the world. You can see that it's flat. And in the upper left-hand corner, there's this little figure of God watching us. And there's the flood depicting. So when you open up the triptych, you get all these naked bodies. They are cavorting and canoodling everywhere, especially in the middle. You have Adam and Eve over there, where everything's calm and restful. Now remember, this thing was covered up for like 500 years. And then when it was rediscovered, the 20th century surrealists went mad for it. Salvador Dali, Joan Miro, Max Ernst, Magritte, they just couldn't believe their eyes and copied a lot of it. So you see a lot of little fruits there. That means lust and sex, and it's just amazing kind of stuff. So this is the Garden of Eden, and then chaos, and then hell on the right hand side. And so it's just a marvelous piece. If you've been to the Prado and you've seen it, it's like their Mona Lisa. Everyone's crowded around it. So everybody's imaginations were ignited. And here's some close-ups of those. So anyway, oh, there's another close-up. So it kind of looks like, that one on the left looks like what H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, but this is 500 years ago. So anyway, I'm going to speed through some of these. Let's go to 1810, and we see Goya's Maha, and he was commissioned to do a mistress of a high-ranking professional, but with clothes on. But Maha and Goya had a thing going on, so Goya painted one for himself, the naked one. He was called in, since gossip was swirling around this piece, he was called in, and there was an inquisition about who asked him to do this and why did he do it. Oh, big trouble. And then, of course, the shooting of the 3rd of May, this is also by Goya. This was the first painting that did not glorify war. Of course, this is the French shooting innocent people. And this too was not a favorite of the French. And these dark figures, some of these disillusioned figures that Goya did were not even, what do I want to say? they weren't, some of these are prints, they weren't printed until 50 years after his death. That's because he did not glorify war. He showed you reality. And of course, Spain couldn't take it. Spain was really, he hated the government of Spain. And so he did everything he could to educate people what was really happening. So these are some of the prints. And this horrors of war that he would do with these bodies, disembodied bodies, it's horrible, have inspired the 20th century artists as well that aren't censored. But we'll get to 20th century censorship soon. Okay, Delacroix, liberty leading the people. I mean, liberty even inspired the Statue of Liberty 50 years later. But anyway, this too did not glorify war. And so it's showing you an analogy of this beautiful woman leading the troops against the Bastille and the realities of violence. And this was censured by King Philip of the time because he didn't want to incite the French people to have another revolution. You know, the French keep having these revolutions. Anyway, this is where it really starts. The 19th century French authorities really feared the power of caricature and theater because most people at that time could not read. They were illiterate. So they would see these images of propaganda in their eyes. They would, go to the theater and they would see this happening. And so their censorship started in 1822. Censorship of caricature continued until 1881, and censorship of the French theater happened until 1906. So there's only been more freedom of speech in France for a little over 100 years. So anyway, this is Delacroix. Liberty was the model for our Statue of Liberty 50 years later. Anyway, here's Damier, a French realist. Now talk about caricatures. Damier served 6 months in jail for depicting King Philip devouring all of the wealth of France. That's like this conveyor belt going up into his mouth, and all the French people are starving. So he went to jail for 6 months, but he would not be stopped. He did all kinds of caricatures. This lithograph was about the French National Guard that just went into a neighborhood and started shooting. And they killed many people. You can see the baby under that man's back. They're all dead. Families were destroyed. And actually, this is a lithograph. And when this was found out by the authorities, they destroyed the stone. They destroyed every print that they could find. This, however, still remains. If you don't know anything about Damier, he was really quite a guy, very socially, political, psychologically in tune with what was going on at this time. They actually called him the Michelangelo of caricature because he did over 4,000 caricatures that caused image censorship in France. Now, the French, as you know, are they're very interesting people. Courbet did these drunken priests going home from some festival, and the French, of course, censored him and imprisoned him, and then exiled him into Switzerland until his death, because the church did not like those priests being depicted as drunks. He also did the Stonebreakers, which just blew up, especially the French aristocracy. How dare you paint these peasants? You're only supposed to, paint royalty and wealthy people. What did these have to do with anything? So the Stonebreakers, unfortunately, was destroyed. It was bought by the Germans, and it was in Dresden during World War II. When they bombed the hell out of Dresden, they firebombed everything, and a lot of artwork was lost. But remember, that was in retaliation for the Germans bombing London. That's another story. A lot of lost art there. And this is Courbet, the Sleepers. So he really pushed the boundaries of what was going on in art at the time. So they just got rid of the bad boy. And this is probably one of his most famous pieces. In fact, they considered this the first work of modern art. And what Manet did, this is by Manet, was showing you everyday life. Of course, Manet was a great supporter of the Impressionists, and they, of course, did everyday life, but they did more outdoor scenes. But Manet was a good supporter. He always called himself a realist. Like Courbet called himself a realist. You know, this is what's really going on. And I could talk about that painting a long time, but I'm going to keep moving. The black cat intonates maybe it's in a cat house and the lady having shoes on intimates that she's a streetwalker. Lots to tell. Anyway, here we go. He's probably most famous for Luncheon on the Grass. And why this caused such a stir is that every person in that painting is identifiable. And so he's putting, this is like a tabloid, you know, the French just went nuts about this. But since Manet was a wealthy man, nobody touched him. Now let's go to America. Another American realist, of course, Thomas Eakins, one of our crowning glory American artists. He wasn't appreciated at first. And the gross clinic that he did was rejected. So the Philadelphia Museum of Art said, nobody wanted this painting because it was so, I guess, so real. So you have all these doctors and they're operating and you can see this woman on the left who is like cringing about how horrible this all is. You can also see the progression of medicine at the time in that everybody's doing an operation in their best duds and there's no sanitary conditions at all. Well, now it's one of the most prized possessions of the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Years later, he did the Agnew Clinic. And you can see how they're dressed in sanitary gowns. The women aren't upset. You know, this piece did not cause any inflammatory comments at all, even though there's some sleeping med students in the back, as you can tell. So everybody's an art critic, right? This piece was banned in Boston in 1894 because the Women's Temperance League just thought it was like drunken fantasy. So you got this naked lady with some grapes hanging over it and there's a little baby there. It was actually commissioned for a library, but they rejected it and now it lives in the Met in New York City. Maybe you've seen it. So everyone has an opinion. And here it is how it lives now. A beautiful bronze. Well, talk about censorship. Here's a big one. Modigliani, just as an aside, he's probably the most copied artist, plagiarized artist in the world, Modigliani. He died young. He was a little debaucherous himself. But anyway, he did lots of nudes. I think he did something like 200 nudes. Well, now this, as you can see, is early 20th century, and there's kind of this feminist revival where women are gaining power, and you know, everything's changing, obviously. And so he did all these nudes, and he had this Paris gallery opening. The police burst in, and they closed it after one day because they considered it indecent. Back to France and their censorship again. Anyway, this particular painting, as I mentioned on the slide, sold for over $170 million just a few years ago. So it might have gone into hiding, but when it came out, got lots of money. Here's some of his other pieces. So you decide for yourself, should it be in the public view or not? Now, one of the most famous censorship issues was in the 20s when John D. Rockefeller Jr., we call him Jr. from now on, commissioned this famous emerging Mexican muralist artist, Diego Rivera, to paint this, like, gosh, I can't remember what it was called, something about the man of the house was dead. So this was going to be in Rockefeller Center, one of the 30 Rock, one of the 17 buildings Jr. was working in downtown New York City. And so Rivera started working on it, and he changed the design a little bit here and there, and Junior would look at it now and then, and all of a sudden one morning he walks in and there's Lenin. Lenin in his mural, and he's handing out money to Black people, to Hispanics, and so they were so worried that this was going to be kind of a communistic intent, which I'm sure it was with Diego Rivera. He said, Diego, take Lenin out of there. And Diego refused. He said, you got to paint over that. Diego said, no, Lenin stays. So he was paid off, left New York City, and they painted over it. What did they replace it with? Oh, here's the close-up. You can see Lenin. They replaced it with this. So last time I was in Rockefeller Center, I took that and it was like, bring back Diego, please. We don't fear Lenin anymore. I was just so bad, so bland. Anyway, in the 30s also, Hollywood did not have any censorship. I'll speed through the rest of this. Do you remember the early Tarzan and Jane movies? They were completely naked underwater. See that? I just found these shots. They're really great. And everybody kind of accepted that. Well, then censorship happened. Remember these kind of things? Cagney and some blonde bombshell. She's in the bathtub. Oh my gosh, would we have seen that in the 30s? Thomas Hart Benton used to work as a Hollywood set design. He was commissioned to do this set in Hollywood, this large painting. And you can notice, if you look closely, the two nudes in it, the one under the arch and the one really close to us, have these painted on like bikini tops. Those were originally naked. And when I went to Kansas City Art Museum, I took these close-ups. So what Thomas Hart Benton was asked to do was to kind of cover up those breasts so that they wouldn't be censored. And so he made these like little pink marks over them. Well, censorship was in effect until the 60s. Remember when they started the PG and the X ratings, so it went into effect. Well, this is another Thomas Hart Benton. He lost his tenure at the university in Kansas because he did this painting. That's him, a lecherous old man peeking around the corner. And this is a likeness of one of his students. He called it Persephone, the Greek goddess, but it was actually him and his student. So he lost his tenure, and the Kansas City Art Institute bought it for $2.5 million in 1986. But it was censored for a while. All right, I don't know how much more time I have, but this is a degenerate art show, very famous art show. Everything Hitler hated. He hated futurism, cubism, Fauvism, Dada, any new and startling art styles. He opposed them completely. So he stole artwork, he stole books, he stole films, he stole everything. He burned some of them, but then when he needed money, he sold off some of these other things, but at first he had what's called the Degenerate Art Show. Look it up, it's really fascinating. And he put up this art show, and on the wall, he would write things like, don't pay attention to these artists, they're insane, they're mad, who would think of doing this? And it became the most popular art exhibition, the most visited art exhibition in German history. People flocked to see what he hated so much. Anyway, one of Helen Keller's books was actually burned by the Nazis. And this is her quote. She said, "History has taught you nothing if you think you can kill ideas." Another great quote from a German writer a century before this, Heinrich Heine said, "When one burns books, one will soon burn people." So they were the harbingers of what was to come. Anyway, this is a line to get into the Degenerate Art Show. Loved it. So let me just fast forward ahead to see, who else I might want to talk about. Oh, here's some of the paintings that Hitler hated that were auctioned off. Van Gogh's, Picasso's. I mean, it was amazing what he sold. The Soviets said no painting, so a lot of artists went to fiber. Magdalena, let's see. There's one other one I want to talk about. Oh, this one. This one I lived. And I will probably end there if that's enough. Anyway, Harold Washington, if any of you remember, was a beloved African-American mayor in Chicago, the first. And right after he was reelected for a second term, he died of a heart attack. And supposedly he died at his desk. Well, there was this kid at the Art Institute of Chicago who was kind of our sister institution. I was at the University of Illinois School of Art and Design. And this kid, David Nelson, decided, well, I'm going to have a parody on this beloved mayor that just died. So I'm going to make him, kind of heavy and overweight. Harold really did look like that. The head's pretty good. And there was always this rumor that Harold was he dressed in drag, whatever. He married somebody right before he was elected to make him to kind of clean up that story. But anyway, so David decided, well, I'm going to do this. So he was an undergrad at the Art Institute, and he painted this painting. None of his professors said, nope, we never saw this. We didn't know what he was working on. So he put this painting out in the hallway that was to be collected to go into a show, an undergrad show. And who comes in early in the morning to clean up the place before the student come in? But the staff. And the staff, who were mostly African-American, saw this portrait of the beloved mayor dressed in drag. Oh, they just blew up. And they complained to their alderman. They called the cops. And David even named it Mirth and Girth. Well, Mirth and Girth was kind of a funny name for overweight gay guys. Oh boy, it went on and on. So anyway, here's some Chicago aldermen. They took down the painting, they slashed it, they threw it in the office of the president of the Art Institute of Chicago. And there's Harold in the middle. Everybody loved Harold. They even have a library named after him, which is quite an incredible library. But anyway, back to this. The president was Tony Jones. The president spoke at one of our conferences, art administrator conferences, and he told us the whole story. Tony was thrown into his office when he came in that day. He didn't know what was going on, but the cops grabbed him out of his cab, threw him in his office, and there's this painting, Mirth and Girth, practically destroyed in his office. And there were so many death threats that he had to be escorted home for 6 months after this incident in a flak jacket with the cops. The Art Institute of Chicago lost like millions of dollars because people were protesting it constantly. I mean, this censorship blew up incredibly. And then the next year, another art students wanted the same kind of fame. So he put an American flag on the floor of the MFA show. Oh, talk about controversy. So 1989 was a very interesting year to be an art administrator. So it just goes on and on and on. So anyway, one more thing. So the veterans were protesting the flag on the floor show, and they didn't want anyone to go to the Art Institute of Chicago. So they had a line that formed around the entire museum and the schools attached. So they went around this entire 4-block city block area, not letting anyone in. Well, those mischievous little art students went outside in the night when they left, and they painted American flags on the sidewalk. So any protesters that were ringing around the building had to kind of dodge and dip around the flag so they didn't step on them. Anyway, that controversy cost quite a bit of money as well. So that's just a touch of censorship. You decide what you think about what should be shown and what shouldn't. Do I have any questions? Sorry if I went over.
No, you didn't. You're fine. Go ahead. Anyone have any questions?
Hey, Robin, this is Roy Henderson speaking. Yeah, I've got a question for you. I noticed your presentation was great. I noticed kind of a theme of censorship historically has been government censorship and churches doing the censorship.
Yes.
And it seems, in my view, today's world, we've got social media and corporate HR departments doing the censorship, and they've got control over people's lives because you can't impinge on, at least in the United States, the government can't impinge on freedoms, but these other institutions are doing it. You have any comment on that?
Well, I think having lived through a lot of different art censorship, and I've got more and more on this presentation, so if you want part 2, I'll do that. We have to be so politically correct these days. It's very difficult. Like further down in my presentation, I talk about Facebook and how they have always been asked to like take down any issues that are controversial. It's like they don't mind if you post a statue of David, like I showed you at the beginning, but they had to take down the Venus de Willendorf, who is a tiny little fertility statue, because she has these enormous breasts. And so now, wait a minute, you've got a 13,000-year-old fertility fetish, and then you've got a 17-foot-high naked man, but that's okay. But this tiny little 4-inch fetish isn't, so who decides? Do we all decide and then post our opinions on social media? What? I don't know. Does that even start to answer your question?
Well, somewhat. It seems like we've gotten a world now where personal expression, like people use Facebook to share things with, thinking they're sharing things with friends and other acquaintances, and then what is personally expressed on Facebook gets back to their corporate employer and is used to damage them. And I've known people that's happened to personally. So it seems like the agents of censorship have just moved away from church and government to other forms.
Well, that's true. Now, personally, I know that my nephew, who's a real party guy, would put things on Facebook, and he, partying.
This lady is.
And that didn't hurt him. He got into a prestigious grad school. He had a fantastic job. But you have a young woman doing that, and she's banned from a job interview. She's banned from the job. It's not fair and equal, no matter what. It's like, who's the messenger? But anyway, this was censored from Facebook, and this was not a problem at all. So,
Robin, I apologize. If you want to stick around a little bit, I do want to close out the meeting.
Thank you very much.
District Governor-elect Dan Gensler, thank you for joining us today. I didn't see you come in before our welcome, and I apologize.
Not at all. Good to see you.
So I'm not going to sing our howdy song for you.
Thank you.
But we are going to close today's meeting, and then if Robin is able to stick around, you can ask her some more questions. So let's see, where's my mallet? And here's our shower thought for the week. Humanity is constantly doing a stadium-style wave, waking up and working and going to sleep around the planet at all times. Ring the bell out for the meeting, and oh, of course. No, why isn't that? Okay, I'm confused. It says it's sharing the sound. I don't know.
Turn it up.
Turn it up.
I think it's Robin's screen is still there. No.
It's okay. Just imagine a bell being rung to this tune of Jingle Bells.
Robin, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I was recently at your museum over in Oceanside and admiring all those paintings you have that were given by donated by the students of the high school in Los Angeles. And it was absolutely fascinating stuff. It showed so much character about the students. There was the one I thought was most interesting was the one in the 1941 or 42, where the students gave the school the painting of the cranes.
Oh, beautiful! Yes, by Jesse Armspot. Yeah, that's a beauty. Yeah, you want me to, I can do a lecture on California Impressionism, which that show just showcases the half century of California Impressionism. I'm glad you saw it. It's great.
Is the museum still open, or what's your situation right now?
Well, our current situation is that the bookstore and gift shop is still open, so please go buy some unique Christmas presents there. But we have to abide by the government, and so we're shut down for 3 weeks. I hope to reopen either by Christmas or early January. But thank you so much for that shout out.
Very enjoyable show. Thank you.
So Robin, is there any truth to the rumor that you gave our Dr. Richard Greenstein his first set of crayons and coloring book when he was a student there?
I'm probably that old, yeah.
I doubt that. I doubt that. The Granite Center opened as I was graduating.
Oh, that was then, what, 1962?
Seven. No, 67, I think.
Is the art museum open then?
I don't think so, but I'm not positive.
I think the museum opened in 62 or 3, and the Granite Center for the Performing Arts was 69, wasn't it? Or well, I don't know. I can look that up.
Yeah, I'll look it up too.
Both great.
Maybe
yeah.
Maybe it was the assembly hall that opened at that time.
Yeah.
So
anyhow, root for Illinois tonight against Duke.
All right.
Rick, I want to follow up on Doug's question. Are you still allowed to have crayons, or are they too sharp for you?
They are, but I prefer heel ball wax.
Oh, okay. Very nice. All right, Robin, again, thank you so much. An amazing program as always.
Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.
We need to give you 4 hours sometime.
Okay.
Have a happy holiday, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you soon.
See you next week. See you, Chip.
Happy birthday, Chip.
Oh, today is his birthday. Oh, looks like, oh, Rick, you look like you're frozen there for a second. All right. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down, folks. I got to go eat some lunch. Have a great week.